Good evening, this is Maestro Cortello with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have another game featuring Paranoid as this blue and green force commander, a tanky melee hero, can support his own troops, and has some of the deadliest commander melee weapons in the game. On the other side, we have Texcalibur, the famous sword of legend, now playing as the Farseer. You just see a lot of Tex playing around with different heroes. Now Paranoid right here, he's pretty much a dedicated Force Commander player. I have never seen him play anything else, and he's a very good player. He's going for a very typical Space Marine build. He's got his starting scout squad. He got another tac squad, again very standard. Tac's very good unit to have at least one of, and he also has another scout squad, which is a very good unit to have two of. On the other side of things, Tex has gone for it's kind of mirrored in terms of its. No, forget whatever I was trying to say there. But he has a Dire Avenger squad, the starting Dire Avenger, Howling Banshees, as well as another Dire Avenger squad. Unfortunately, Dire Avengers, good in many ways. They do have the DPS of a tac squad, roughly, but they have nowhere near the durability of a tac squad. So they lost quite significantly to that tac squad. Tac squad took like 40 damage. Dire Avengers lost 2 models. But Dire Avengers are also cheap, so you can actually put 3 on the field very quickly, and then you have a very high range DPS in Tier 1. Howling Banshees, deadly melee unit. Their job is killing tac models pretty much, and they are damn good at it. Right now, though, they're at half health. They do not want to fight a Force Commander who can just pop Battle Cry and knock them down. And this is unfortunately bad early engagements for Tex. Pretty much all of his units retreating. And this Farseer in a ton of trouble, getting shot by every single bolter on the screen, including the Force Commander's bolt pistol for good measure. Tex, meanwhile, does not get any aspects yet on his units, and that allows him to get this Guardian weapon team out fairly early. Does have this one generator right here. It might go down. I mean, he does have the node over here. It might go down. He doesn't even have his power capped over here. He couldn't even get it because the Dire Avengers went here and they got forced off by Tax. And these Dire Avengers alone, they actually just can't do it. I mean, the scouts don't do a lot of damage, but right now they are in heavy cover. Dire Avengers don't even have heavy cover on. Well, they don't even really have heavy cover on this side. This little fiery thing provides heavy cover, but the rest of it is all yellow cover. So just kind of an advantage right now. The Space Marine defense behind all this cover. Basically, Dire Avenger's going to just get cut up a little too much on approach. Looks like Paranoid is backpedaling a little bit, though. I'm not sure why. Maybe he knows that the Guardian weapon team is there, and he doesn't quite have what he needs to counter it. But he is getting Assault Space Marines as his 4th unit. It's tough. I don't know whether to call that his 4th unit or his 5th unit. It's his 4th squad, but it's his 5th unit if you include the Force Commander. Someone is targeting scouts. Dire Avengers. All right, Dire Avengers do beat scouts overall. They just have to be careful when they don't have the aspect, and also if they're out of cover while the scouts are in cover. And most of the Space Marine forces are a little blobbed up over here. It looks like Tex will get the contested victory point, but right now Paranoid already has a pretty significant VP lead. Winning those early engagements, getting that middle victory point, winning by about 100 victory points. Assault Space Marines, jump. I mean, that's one of the good things about Assault Space Marines or any jump unit, just the quick movement you can get from there. They do jump right into the Guardian weapon team's firing arc, but unfortunately, unfortunately for Tex, Assault Space Marines can often easily jump twice. Their jump only costs 55 energy, so after the first jump, they only have to wait for their energy to regenerate by 10 points before they can use it again. So one of the things that's actually really good about Assault Space Marines is actually that they're not very easily countered by weapons teams, because they can usually just, even if they misuse their jump on a unit that's not the weapon team, they can usually just wait a little bit, tank damage because they have a lot of health and heavy armor, and then just jump on that weapon team once they've restored their energy a little bit. Force Commander is getting shot by the Shuriken Cannon. So Shuriken Cannon, one of the best setup teams in the game. Very good. It has good, I mean, obviously it suppresses, and it also does pretty good damage. And then I feel like Eldar have generally had the most weapons team-centric play out of all the races in Retribution. Obviously, all races except Tyranids and now Grey Knights have weapons teams. But yeah, I think we've mostly seen them from the Eldar, mainly because they have a lot of damage. Their weapons teams do good damage, in addition to suppression, and also because I think just with the way Eldar works, where most of their units are kind of fragile, they really need that support from the weapons teams. And Tex, amazingly, still does not have one of his natural power nodes. Meanwhile, Paranoid's getting two natural power farms. Assault Space Marines jumping. Unfortunately, that's actually going to be really bad for them, jumping into Banshees. And now with this Banshee, wow, Banshees. I mean, it's just kind of unbelievable, just in the sense that these Assault Space Marines, they have so much health, but they lose to the Howling Banshees. And I mean, I know why. I just think it's kind of amazing in some ways. Basically, the Banshees do more damage. They just do more damage. I mean, the melee skill, if they get a knockback, it's going to be really fucked up for the Assault Space Marines. They'll just get killed to death. These Guardians right here doing some focus fire, throw down a grenade, actually knock back the Force Commander, but that's still, unfortunately, not really enough to stop Diomedes. As you can see, my Force Commander picture is actually Gabriel. I had once tried to switch the model and the picture to Gabriel Angelos, but it didn't work fully, and then I never bothered to change it anyway. Change it back or anything. Never cared much for Diomedes. Always a big fan of Gabriel, but unfortunately, even if you change the model and the portrait, you can't change his voice. And that's the best part about Gabriel. It's also the best part about Diomedes, but in a very different way. Anyway, aside from my talking about the voices and the characters, we do have Howling Banshees actually wiping this power farm from Paranoid. I don't think they're going to get this decap off, but, I mean, destroying the generators is enough, really. They might try to go for a decap on the victory point. That might be a little bit more important. Looks like Tax are going to run in, start shooting the Howling Banshees. Obviously, Paranoid knows that they're going for this decap, and I think they will at least just get the decap off. They shouldn't stay in there any longer. Banshee's now upgraded to the Aspect of Strength. So one of the changes in the latest Elite Mod patch is that Banshees can now choose between the Aspect of Fleetness and the Aspect of Strength. There is no more Aspect of the Banshee, although Aspect of Strength is basically what Aspect of the Banshee was. Aspect of Fleetness lets the Howling Banshees use the dual power swords that the Exarch model gets when in retail you don't get the Aspect. So you can actually use it now, because, I mean, it looks badass. It's really cool. And you can actually use it. But, and it also allows them to jump over cover. To leap, as it's called. We do now have a Dreadnought out for Paranoid, and Tex does not currently have any counters to that. He could get a Singing Spear on his Farseer, but putting a hero in, even with a heavy melee weapon against a walker, is always very risky. It should not be your main answer to a walker. He could also get a Bright Lance on this Guardian weapon team, which would be a better answer, but that also means giving up the suppression, which has been helping him a lot to control these Assault Space... control the Assault Space Marines as well as the ranged units. Still not a single Paranoid really keeping those Scouts vanilla. I feel like you don't see that as much these days. Most people I see these days will get upgrades on their Scouts pretty quickly. But I feel like, again... It might be like a slightly old school play. I remember back in early on in the first year of Retribution, like maybe in like the middle of 2011, you would usually see scouts running around unupgraded until about tier 2. And I think we saw something very interesting here with the Dreadnought in a range stance attacking ground to kill 2 generators at once. And I mean, you could actually just like melee down the generators with the Dreadnought, and that would actually work really well too. But I mean, Paranoid really making optimal use of his units. His Dreadnought is getting hit in the back by this Guardian weapon team, though. Now upgraded to a Bright Lance cannon. Very good AV. Higher overall damage. Higher DPS than las cannons, but does not snare. So Tex right now might still have a little trouble with AV because he can't snare that Dreadnought. He does have. So right now he has 3 sources of AV. He has the Howling Banshees with the aspect of strength and the Executioner Spear. He does have that Bright Lance cannon. He also has this Falcon, which does do some light AV. It's not that great. It's pretty bad actually, but it's still doing damage. His Force Commander tanking a lot of damage. Was definitely in a little bit of trouble there, and the Dreadnought kind of came to support. And the Falcon, I actually think the Falcon is pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of talk about transports in the game. People often say that the War Truck is the best transport. And it's good because it's cheap, really cheap. It's the cheapest transport. And you can reinforce units like Sluggers. And when you have a never-ending Sluggers, it's like really dangerous. There's also the Chimera, which is obviously good just because it reinforces guardsmen, makes their staying power really incredible. There's the Razorback, which I think is the best in terms of its actual, well, maybe not the best, but it's good for its actual damage output. But you don't want to lose Space Marine models too much. And then there's the Falcon. Falcon is so good that Tex is getting 2 of them. But anyway, the Falcon gets to reinforce things like Banshees. And Banshees are such a high impact unit. They do so much in such a short amount of time that it really hurts to have them reinforce. I mean, usually the downside to Banshees is that they're weak, and that once you whittle down their health a little bit, they have to retreat because players don't want to risk losing them. Like right here, like Tex about to lose his Banshees, and what a close call. Definitely loses the XR. Banshee's down to 1 model and 27 health. Problem with dual Falcons, though. Falcon actually takes out the Dreadnought, but problem with dual Falcons is that now Paranoid has this Predator. Predator, I think, even unupgraded, is going to counter both Falcons. Certainly with a las cannon and also extra armor, it will definitely counter both Falcons. Like, it will actually win against both Falcons. Because it just does such good damage. And, I mean, he's going for that las cannon. I think he actually wants to wait until he has the las cannon. He wants it to be a surprise so that the Falcons just instantly start getting hit by las cannons. Because, I mean, he could run it up right now and already threaten those Falcons, even just with the autocannon, but he goes for the las cannon, and that first shot is going to take out like 1/3 of the health. Watch this. Not even 1/3 of the health. Straight. Wow. I actually can't believe how powerful that las cannon is. It actually does something like more than 300 damage in a single shot. That was stupid. Oh, and now this Bright Lance in trouble too. Is it going to get wiped? No. Gonna take a few model losses. Guardian weapon team certainly in a little bit of trouble against Assault Space Marines once they have that Sergeant upgrade. Howling Banshees. So Paranoid running all the way into tier 3 and is now getting shotguns. Wow. It's, I mean, it's the kind of thing where if he had shotguns, he actually would have probably forced off the Howling Banshee squad, especially if he had shotguns on both scouts. But I guess this way, Paranoid saves power. He gets to tier 3, gets a Predator out with a las cannon. Unfortunately, the single scout squad with shotguns doesn't even knock over the Banshees. I'm not sure why. Tex actually gets fire dragons. You don't see a lot of fire dragon play. Obviously, new unit in the elite mod, but rarely ever used, sad to say. I guess, unfortunately, not a good testament to their current design. Just, you don't see them used. Obviously, they're basically like a stormtrooper squad. They're basically like a Melta stormtrooper squad. They have fusion guns, does Melta damage, does about 0.75 damage. 0.7. The modifier against vehicles is 0.75, which is better than most weapons. Obviously, most piercing weapons, it's something like 0.01. So piercing weapons do like nothing against vehicles. These will be pretty good against vehicles. They actually do bonus damage against, I think, super heavy infantry, and then I'm not sure if it's either full or bonus damage against heavy infantry. I mean, it's an AV choice. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a great one, because the Predator tank is probably going to do a lot of damage to the Fire Dragons before they can do any significant damage. Howling Banshee's going to be in here. I wonder... Oh, Howling Banshees get a knockdown. They don't even use a War Shout, or the Scream, or whatever it is. But Howling Banshee's now in really low health. Finally used that War Shout, but Howling Banshees are actually kind of in trouble once you have Assault Space Marines that can do Merciless Strike. But the Assault Marine Sergeant did go down, unfortunately, there. And unfortunately, I think this Guardian weapon team is going to be dead. Yeah, that's sad. You have a Falcon that's pretty low on health. I mean, this Falcon is really in a lot of... You should get the energy shield if he wants to try to keep it alive, but Tex doesn't have much. He doesn't have much money. Tex low on the victory points, though. So much so that he's keeping his Farseer in here with no weapon upgrade, getting the Singing Spear now, up against Assault Space Marines. And both of them have very little health. Oh, Farseer's going to get wiped. That's really sad. Unfortunately, this game does not look like it's going to go in Tex's favor. He is throwing down webway gates. Oh, but is this Assault Space Marine squad going to go down? Are we going to get a nade in retreat? Nade is premature. It's actually a little too late. And he kind of nades his own Banshees. A lot of fire goes down from those Fire Dragons, but they don't really do enough damage in retreat, just because they are a ranged unit. And, yeah, we need to see more War Shout from those Banshees, because that's what they do to make it so that Tax just retreat out of there instead of staying on the field. Oh, big shot from the Las Cannon Predator. And these Banshees gotta go. It's kind of looking like curtains for Texcalibur. He needs more to deal with that Predator tank, and he doesn't have enough at this point. He doesn't have enough resources. This Falcon is going to die in 2 shots from the Predator tank. We know exactly now that a Falcon without the shield will die in exactly 2 shots from the Predator. And this Predator Las Cannon does something like roughly 370 damage per shot. Las Cannon Predator gives a dire Avenger model right there. Tex kind of staying in this game, mostly just on the caps right now. It's really not looking good for him. Paranoid, meanwhile, actually pretty close to getting Terminators. Cloaked Army here, right? Cloaked Army. I don't think this is a winning fight, though. Oh, man. Tex, maybe... I mean, Tex, I think he's going hard for this Predator. But the Predator getting double repaired by scouts, and that Falcon dies. Although what Tex did while Paranoid wasn't really paying attention was he threw down 2 nades, wiped the tax squad, but Tex is calling a GG right there. Sync kill from the Force Commander, now with the Thunderhammer. Tex does call it GG, but this game is still running. Tex does still have units. I guess the question is... I mean, he called it... Oh, alright. That is the game. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.